Hey
Hey
Sam,
man,
hey, how you doing?
doing pretty good. Yeah,
How's
just just existing, you know.
did you do anything today?
I just practice guitar and just
For how
kind of
long?
about 2 hours, which is 2 hours more than I usually do.
Is that your major?
Yep,
Are
it
you in
is.
school?
Not right now. I'm going back in September,
What
so
what year are you in?
I'm actually a fifth year, so I took off some. I did part time for quite a while, so that kind of equals out to 5 years plus a semester I took off.
Okay, what'd you do with that semester?
Just kind of, without getting too much into it, just kind of put my head back on, screwed it back on tight.
Right.
There's a few cogs loose.
Yeah, I have the
Yeah.
same issues even at my ripe old age of 59, but I'm
Mhm.
starting to grow up at this ripe old age.
Yeah, yeah, man. So,
How do you keep it together?
uh, routine,
Yeah.
routine, and making good choices.
Mm-hmm. Do you meditate at all?
No, I want to get more into that. I think I mean, it's kind of like a paradox because I want to have a clear mind in order to do it, but you need to meditate in order to have a clear mind. So it's like kind
Right.
of chicken or the egg scenario.
Yeah, I just started meditating and didn't have the sort of caveat of like, oh, I have to already have a clear mind. I would just sit and be quiet, and if my mind was busy, it was busy, and if I needed to sort of listen or not listen, and so I just kept that practice up. But I was really doing this like stressed out corporate job, but it was actually became my favorite thing to do. But I think even before that, I was meditating when I would listen to music on headphones or even during my commute. I think when
Yeah.
we moved away, there was about an hour long commute, and that was some downtime that was sort of imposed on me, and I really think it started there.
Hmm.
um, but I totally relate to like, and I was afraid as an artist to meditate too, that I would lose my edge. But it actually gives me more choices actually, and me
Yeah.
has me and less living sort of compulsively.
Hmm.
But yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I actually, I mean, I already said this on another podcast. I mean,
Oh,
another show, that I made a like I made like an MP3 of silence, and I did like an hour because I'm crazy. But I was like, but I'm like,
yeah.
but I had the time too. But I like would introduce the hour. This is your sort of hour meditation, and then I would listen with headphones, so it would cue me when it was over. I don't know. I'm like, and I learned later that, like Rick Rubin was meditating when he was like 14, and I
Hmm.
went to uh, uh, college with him, and he made history, and I'm just making a living.
Oh man, I mean, gotta do what you gotta do. I'm personally, if it's any consolation, I don't know who Rick Rubin is. So
Well, I don't know what TikTok is. What is TikTok?
TikTok is like this platform where it's set up in a way. Are you just on Facebook?
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
YouTube. That's
You
mean.
Facebook and YouTube,
Yeah.
yes. So the first of the social medias. TikTok is basically this like social media platform that's designed to make you go viral. But like I have some classmates who are on it. They have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and while that is pretty impressive, it's not as impressive as having a huge following on like YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, because the way TikTok works is that it takes your content and basically what you would have to pay for like advertising, on Facebook to shop your stuff out to an audience. TikTok, it just does that for free, and that's their whole model. And like,
So there's built-in promotion.
basically just when you open up TikTok, it's not like a feed of It's not necessarily a feed of people you follow. It's more just like, hey, here's the viral videos. Here's
that
the
are
latest
sort
viral.
of trending now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do they limit the time, like as far as a video is supposed to be a certain amount of time, or?
It's like it has three increments. It's 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and 3 minutes. So if you want to have like this little short episode, you can. If you want to do something stupid for 15 seconds, you can. If you want to, and then there's the in between.
And is it basically like for attention and sort of notoriety, or is there any is it any monetary thing?
I mean, attention and notoriety and monetary gain is kind of like synonymous these days in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I think that attention and notoriety is probably takes agency over monetary gain with a lot of people.
Yeah, people are
Um,
more interested in getting my name out there or whatever and
yeah,
having people know who I am. Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
then I guess the monetary is secondary.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What's the camera behind you?
Oh, that's my dad's camera. I
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stole it for a bit.
Is that SLR? Can you do good video on that? Or
Uh,
is it just a still?
it's a Sony. Yeah, I can do video. The last couple of Instagram videos did with it. I still am really like kind of inept when it comes to handling cameras. Like the exposure was all fucked up, and like whatever ISO is, I'm sure it was wrong. The setting.
Yeah. I'm not really a big tech guy either. I usually just work within what systems I'm using, and then just under the umbrella of art, I make my mistakes work for
Mm-hmm.
me, and go with them. Uh, but
That's interesting.
yeah, I've always sort of worked with what I've got, and
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of if I didn't have money to make film, because film was expensive back
Mm-hmm.
in the day, in the sort of '80s, then I would write songs, because if I wrote a crappy song, it wouldn't have cost me any money, but it would at least get get what I was feeling at the moment across.
Yeah, yeah,
What
definitely.
about Instagram? How's that different from TikTok?
Oh, Instagram is more like it's based on a feed from people you follow, and you do actually it fosters like a situation where like if you want more followers, you have to make like actual, I
Con-
mean, yeah, connections like
content or connections?
connections. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I guess real in the sense of as opposed to TikTok. I mean, it's still like you're online, but I've noticed that my model for like promoting my stuff is I'll use hashtags um, to find other people who are doing what I'm doing and just kind of interact with them. And yeah, it just because people, a lot of people just want it to be organic. They're like, oh yeah, I just want to put my stuff out there, and then it'll just build up by itself. And it's a crapshoot with that. You really have to be very interesting consistently in order for stuff like that to just organically grow.
Yeah.
Um, and for the rest of us, it's like you got to just kind of build it up slowly.
Yeah, I always find when I'm looking at like, because I just make stuff, because I was making stuff before the internet, and then I was just like, I would just make stuff and put on it, and then wouldn't even look at the views or the comments. Not that I get a lot, because it would always like futz with my process, I guess you call it.
Right.
It'd be like one time I had this song that wasn't any real difference than any other the songs I make, and it got like 4,000 views. I was like, how did this
Right.
happen? Of course, I was like, oh, I want to repeat this, or oh, I want to like capitalize on it, or I want to
Yeah.
figure out why it did that, and like it was driving me kind of cuckoo because I didn't know. Like my friends, like, well, maybe it was something that in the title or
Yeah.
whatever, and
It.
I even reposted it on YouTube and another place, and it didn't do, it got like 14 or 20 or whatever, as opposed to
Right.
4,000. I don't know, I don't know what it hit, but a lot of times
Yeah.
it just like it screws with my process. I'm just like, and also even I used to just make things in isolation, and sort of like have like a concept or a vision or an idea, and really kind of keep it protected from the outside world, and then build it, and then suddenly like gradually like show it.
Mm-hmm.
And but a lot of times it was because I usually, I don't, I lacked the confidence too, so I had to sort of keep it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess a lot of people are chasing the likes, and I don't know, it just would drive me more crazy than I already am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely like trivializes what you're doing. Like, I remember like if I post something and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is whatever. It got like 5 times as much attention as it usually does. So I just am like, okay, like I just kind of get taken out, like what you were saying. I get taken out of just the creative mode and into like, yeah, just chasing the dopamine that's released
Yeah,
when you have something like that happen. It's kind of because like it's a drug.
yeah. And then not being able to find the dealer is the nightmare
Right.
to get the same
Yeah.
brand or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Exactly.
So, and I just like, I don't know, it's like the last, I mean, the movie I made in 2019, it was just like I thought it was over for me. I thought like, okay, well, a lot of times I feel like I don't have any more in me. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was coming up with a film, and we were in sort of the jumping off point being the tarot deck. And he was talking about his film, and we were over dinner, and I was talking about what he should do. And then, but suddenly I was building a film in my head at the same time because I realized my tips to him were maybe not really working, or he would envision them different than I did. And by
Mm-hmm.
the end of the evening, I was like, I might have a film in my head, or at least the impetus to make something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said, Robert, is it okay if I make the film in my head and you make your film? And he's like, yeah, why don't we make our films? We'll show them together. And this is um, before COVID. And
Gotcha.
I just like, because I like had no confidence, but I just started. I just was like, here's some dialogue. And then I had some friends, and my wife let me shoot in our living room, God bless her. So I
Yeah.
had a controlled set, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I just kept going, and I didn't, and it was all this crap because my head was just full of nonsense, and I was just like, I didn't, and I mean, I had a set, and then I had some people, and I just put it together, and it sort of made more sense than I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, but I couldn't, but I did it just to like get the craziness out of my head and onto the screen
Yeah.
and like try to make any sense out of it. So it was really like therapeutic rather than,
Yeah.
and my work's always been therapeutic and personal. And I think to like, have it at the mercy of like, the internet or strangers or whatever is really risky. And, to my health. And that's why I usually don't even look at it. I'll post it and then I'll walk away and like work on something else. And
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
but yeah, it's a complete environment that people are doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what other ways do you like structure or it's really
Yeah.
hot here. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
yeah, and I took the fan off,
Oh, shit.
but
Yeah.
I find that like I've been really productive when I've had like I early on, like after college I separated because I thought, well, I made film when I was a kid, and then I would come to New York and go to NYU and become like a professional, and it didn't happen. My films were too weird, and then I was like, okay, I'll get a job to pay the rent, but then I'll separate it from the work, from the artistic stuff. And I always found that's been good for me, and that a lot of times the structural will be sort of the job that I just kind of like can almost do by rote,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll leave me time to do my creative work. I know a lot of people are trying to do their creative work and have it like make a living for them, and I just was like, that must be awful because I wouldn't want to have my therapy with my films and music to be at the mercy of the market. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely is what, it comes down to what your art does for you. I think, I mean, I'm still, don't have a bachelor's yet. I have one, I do have 1 year left. But, you know, I think, like I'm 25 living with my parents, and so I just don't have any like basis for what I want my art, where I want it to go.
Right.
What my inclination is to go into film scoring. Like that's kind of where I want to take my education after my bachelor's. And yeah, I mean, I am that is with the intention of making money off of my creative endeavors, and then having also time to do my creative endeavors that I like that aren't contrived, and maybe not necessarily what I'm super stoked about.
The stuff you are super stoked about. I mean, or
Oh yeah, yeah. So like working on a cue or like some type of score for a picture. Like there's that, and I think that definitely strikes some inspiration and passion in me. But at the same time, there's me wanting to do like the metal stuff, and I want to play shows, and so like there's these two avenues that I'm wanting to pursue, and I'll just see where that goes. Like I said, I'm kind of at square one right now,
yeah,
or I would say square zero.
yeah. But I
But
think it's like that. I have my story, and I have perspective to look back, being 59, and kind of going like, okay, this is what it ended up doing. But it like I only found out kind of who I am and what's important to me by actually like having the rubber hit the road, having me actually live life and having that experience. Because I think,
mhm,
if I could have just figured it all in my, like I have a plan in my head, but as long as I take action, then I can adjust that plan as life
mhm,
meets it, and that just makes sense. So it's like, um, and yeah, I know a friend of mine, Nick Ratner, was a music editor. I think he's still doing it. He might have moved to Australia,
mhm,
and like he was just at a Sound One in New York, like just being a he was just like being a secretary or something, like answering phones, and I don't know, they just thought he was funny or something and said, why don't you come in and like cut some music. So it's
uh-huh,
like a lot of times you never know what's going to happen when you're actually in the
yeah,
world. And he was, so it's like just being a part of life in some way. You'll find we find our way.
yeah,
But it's good to have a plan. I definitely knew what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I would either wanted to be a comedian, or when I watched race car driver, I'll be a race car driver. But then
mhm.
when I saw film, I was like, and we had a camera in the house. It was like I just loved doing it. What was the first time that music really hit you?
um well, I mean, I always kind of had this interesting relationship with it. I mean, because like my mom's side of the family, everyone does music. Um, so it's just kind of around me a lot. And I think what made me want to do electric guitar and guitar in general was the Fender Stratocaster. That guitar just looked so cool to me. Like, because I had been playing acoustic for like the first 8 years of my life, and I think like if you're a kid and they probably keep the electric guitars away so you don't fuck them up. Like a little cheap acoustic guitar, you can like bang it and whatnot. But anyways, so like I was so like fascinated by the Strat. I was like, oh my god, it has no hole in it. It's just these weird magnet things. And so when I was like 11, my parents bought me like a Washburn kind of Strat knockoff, and yeah, I just kind of had the basic chords, like the first chords that you learn to like play, like stuff like La Bamba, like G, C, D, um, and then I learned bar chords, and that's when things really start to kick off, especially like with Drop D.
How old were you?
Oh, 11.
Yeah. And what were you
Yeah.
listening to at the time?
So it started out with Rage Against the Machine, I think. I mean, before like I started playing electric guitar, I listened to stuff like Coldplay, Spoon, just whatever my parents were listening to at the time. But through the internet, I actually discovered this new metal band called Spine Shank, and that I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. This is like the coolest sounding shit I've ever heard.
How old were you then?
Yeah, I was just all of
11?
this in the 11th year of my
11,
life.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But the guy
And
who plays for Rage Against the Machine, he really approaches the guitar in like a completely different and unique way. I just have so much admiration for him, you know. I mean, he has
definitely.
one of those master class, and I watched just the intro of it. It
Oh,
looked really
cool.
cool. What's his name? Tom
Tom Morello.
Morello, yeah. I just love how he approaches the guitar.
Yeah.
It's hot. This is a diner. Yeah. Oh. So, I have prepared questions. When there was a lull, I'll go to a prepared question.
Oh, for sure.
Do you make things to-do lists? I find that helpful usually when I'm, feeling a little like, what am I doing?
Yeah, sometimes when it's like when I'm in a position where I do have a lot of stuff to be doing, I definitely make to-do lists. Now that it's like kind of the summer, I just kind of existing a bit. But yeah, when things kind of pick up, it's where the to-do lists come into play.
Yeah. So are you in Austin or California or
Austin right now?
How is Austin these days?
It's getting a little packed. Still great.
How was the COVID year for you, 2020?
It was pretty good. I mean, well, it was everyone survived, basically, who I care about.
Yeah.
So I guess you could call that good. And I just it sucked, but it was also put things into perspective. It's just like, yeah, like society is fragile when it comes down to it, and we do find a way, but like it's just like the way things can just change so drastically in a split second.
Yeah. I was sort of like the year before, I was already having like fantasies that something terrible was going to happen, like either the economy was going to crash, a bomb was going to hit. So I was like rehearsing it with, just imagining apocalypse. And then, so when it happened, I was kind of strangely calm in a way because I don't know, at least it was, all right. I have like, I'm from a different generation. I have like touchstones, like, the Partridge Family and Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch and, the Beatles and,
Yeah.
and, what for your generation, if you can even speak to it, like what are the things that join you guys if you do have them?
Probably like Family Guy, South Park, Simpsons, and like more recently, actually we're watching this show called Episodes. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's basically this British couple. They come to California to like shoot the American version of their British TV show. And Matt LeBlanc is in it, and it's like, he's like, oh yeah, I was in Friends, but I'm kind of a has-been, so I kind of need this. So that's been kind of on my mind in the forefront because it's just been like binge watching. But also like, music wise, like being a kid, like shit like Smash Mouth with the what's that? Rock All Star, yeah.
I
That's like
think,
that's the song of our generation.
yeah, my nephews are pretty much the same age. You guys were at my wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and you were having a tantrum at the wedding, and I understand now that you were trying to warn me not to get married, and I really appreciate it, Sam. But it's been a mixed blessing, but I understand
Jesus.
why that you were trying to say, no, Carrie, no. I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, I was like 5, wasn't I? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. I don't ever remember. I think I blocked out all the public tantrums I had
Yeah.
out of my memory. I was like, "Oh, I was probably I mean, I think what my parents say is like I was a or the consensus is I was a pretty chill kid. Like I just didn't freak out too much.
Okay.
Maybe I was more of a chill baby because I didn't freak out a lot when I was yeah, like 1 to 3 or something.
Then when I saw you later in New York, you came to New York and you were like in a metal band and things were going
Hmm.
really cool. And
Yeah.
I guess I looked like Dr. Evil.
Oh yeah, I said you looked like
Right.
Dr. Evil. Fucking
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we went to Sammy's Noodles, did we?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that
Yeah, my
makes
my memory's not that great, but
hmm
yeah.
that was that was like 13 years ago or something.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Um what do you think of Brittany having her what is it called? Something ship? She's kind of in a prison. Don't you kind of feel bad for her, like, or if
I,
she's not part of your
well, no,
cultural touchstones?
I'm not sure what has happened to her. Do you know like
I think
specifics?
like her I think her father's taken over her life ever since her breakdown, and now she's just like doing stuff in a like doing shows in Las Vegas, but doesn't really have any agency over her life. And I guess
Oh.
I was assuming that you would know more about it than I do. Like since
Hmm.
getting married, we don't watch I don't watch network anymore, so I don't know what's
Hmm.
going on culturally. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean,
I just feel bad for her. It's just like, you know, um what? Any thoughts?
yeah, just being like a celebrity of that caliber, it's like it's just it definitely fucks with you in a lot of ways. I'm not sure what happened to her, but like it can go south pretty quickly from what I understand. And just, yeah, as far as like money and whatever, like how the money is handled. Um, yeah, I just think whatever it is probably unfair to her
Yeah,
because.
it seems like because so many people would like at her peak wanted to be her and like
Hmm.
were fans, and then for it to turn in this nightmare. I guess I mean it's kind of like if you stick long enough, because David Cassidy was a big teen idol, and then he struggled really badly with alcoholism and like
Hmm.
like John Lennon with the Beatles of being like mop tops, and then things, and then how that turned, and then having getting shot by some crazy person. So it's
Hmm.
like you live long enough, and the sort of the innocence gets lost. I mean, even with the 60, like I was born in 1962, so it's like you get our things are like, you get the summer of love in 67 and 68, and then suddenly it turns bad with Altamont and the Manson family. So it's like
Yeah.
there's these lights, and then things go dark, so it's like,
Yeah.
and I just think it's, I guess, you move up generations, and I don't know others, and before that, the people younger, it was like Kennedy getting shot. It was all hopeful, and then suddenly, so just, I guess it's just the patterns of life. And if you're sensitive like me, you go with them and then you have to deal with them. But
Yeah.
I guess like now I'm older, getting perspective and everything. Um, but and I feel like, because like the 20s for me were difficult. I mean, they're really, really difficult. But I like kept making, because I wanted to. I was, but I kept making music, because that was
Hmm.
important to me, and kept being creative in any way, even like drawing. And I know even if my college degree didn't really do anything, I met great people there that I'm still friends with now, and it led me to other, working in nightclubs and stuff. And then like um So do you have any heroes in your life? People you look up to?
Um, well, actually, like celebrities or like people who I
Anybody?
know. Yeah.
Either one, yeah.
Um, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but there's this comedian slash like podcaster named Duncan Trussell.
Came to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, yeah, he's just super. He's into Zen Buddhism, and He has these gurus. He's into Ram Dass, and I just love listening to his podcast because I think like I discovered him when I was in a really like rough spot mentally, and I just felt like his voice and his what he says is like so therapeutic. He has this show called The Midnight Gospel on Netflix, and it's the most hip shit I've ever
Is
seen.
that the animated show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that on YouTube, and like I listened to him, on Joe Rogan's podcast, and
Uh huh.
it's like I haven't listened to him in a long time, but I like all that stuff, but I'm into it like sober. Like those guys all like have these spiritual experiences
Yeah,
with
psychedelics.
psychedelics, and I'm like I have like alcoholism and mental illness in my family, so I'm like I've always been wary of that
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean, doing the spiritual work with like the 12 steps for my depression and mental illness has been really good for me as far as like understanding those experiences, even though I haven't had a psychedelic experience. I think it's a matter of like opening up, you know, the right hemisphere or whatever, or having a
Yeah.
spiritual awakening where the fear gets dialed down, and your antenna gets a little in tune. And I don't know, but I mean, uh, but I don't, I'm not on Spotify, so I don't watch those shows. I really like Tim Dillon. I think he's really funny.
Yeah.
And like he was a big fan of Alex Jones, but he's not. He's a little more skeptical. I don't know. Last time I saw Alex Jones, he was on Michael Malice's show, and he sounded pretty like less intense. So Duncan Trussell is a comedian, and yeah, that what's that show called? The animated show,
Oh, The Midnight Gospel.
Midnight Gospel.
Yeah.
My thing was like I was watching. Do you watch the Mighty Boosh ever?
I've seen it. Yeah, Old
Yeah,
Greg, and that's the main one. But
yeah. I've seen all of them, and then there was a spin-off show called Luxury Comedy that Noel
mhm.
Fielding did. And that for me is my Midnight Gospel, because it was like I don't know, it was just like my insanity was like clicking with that insanity, and
Mhm.
it was like a home for me. So
Yeah.
so what happens in the Midnight Gospel? Can you describe it at all, or is it too?
Well, yeah. Basically, it's like it's a podcast. So they're going through this like psychedelic kind of journey through like. So he has a the whole premise of the show. This character Clancy has a universe simulator. So what he does is he goes into the universe simulator, visits different planets, and finds people to interview. And the deal is that these people are real people. They're not playing a character in the show. It's like the real actual person in their lives. So they talk about just all these really what's the word? I don't know.
Psychedelic?
Well, not psychedelic, but like esoteric, I guess.
Esoteric, yeah.
Yeah. And like there's all these crazy guests, like really really interesting people. They talk about like spirituality and like confronting the concept of death and just how to
Like
live.
Jung's shadow and Gnosticism and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, I
And
listened
like
to.
Crowley, anything like stuff from the occult.
I mean, not in the Midnight Gospel, but in Duncan Trussell's actual podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a Gnostic guy on, and
They
I'm.
talked to Grant Morrison, because he made this. He was a graphic novel writer, and he had this series, The Invisibles, that apparently The Matrix was a complete ripoff of that, and was all interested with Gnosticism.
Yeah.
But you were saying,
Oh yeah. I mean, actually, I did. So I did listen to an episode very recently with a him interviewing a Gnostic person, and yeah, it kind of escapes me a bit because I'm just like, okay, like it's supposing that you know this much about what reality is, and I think yeah, like I think stuff like Buddhism is more kind of tangible to me, and they are synonymous. And also, I mean, I listen to like maybe a third of the podcast, so I haven't really gotten down the Gnostic um, rabbit hole. But yeah, I just so far it just doesn't really jive with me.
Yeah.
I'm just
It's
like,
not it's not Miguel Connor, is it? The Gnostic guy?
let me see.
He has a show called Aeon Byte or whatever on YouTube.
Miguel Connor. Let's see. Oh yeah, it is Miguel Connor. Yeah,
Bing ding ding ding. Wow.
yeah,
Well, that's good. Yeah, he's really cool. He's got this really deep voice and he
yeah,
loves to talk because he does these like, half-hour intros and then an hour. I don't know, his intros are just I skip through them.
yeah.
But did he ever have Gordon White on? He's this guy who started in. Oh, does Duncan Trussell talk about chaos magic?
I think he talks about high magic.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, the guy
he interviewed
from Damien
Damien Eccles.
Eccles. Yeah. How he survived death row
Yeah,
doing high magic. Yeah, he has a humble YouTube channel too,
yeah.
and
I watched some of it.
yeah. Um, I feel I have compassion for that guy. I mean, you do when you see those documentaries, but even now, he just seems like a very gentle soul,
Hmm.
and but and very like not very tech savvy, and just like a kind guy. And
Yeah.
it's like he found his way. He kind of retained his sanity in death
Hmm.
row, ironically using Western ceremonial magic. And he talked about one time about being in the cell with a guy who like took an axe to his mother or something, and he's just like with that kind of like destructive energy, and
Yeah.
I'm in the same cell like I needed. So it's almost when people think of like the occult, they think of darkness. It was actually his light, that God had,
Right.
like he was in a really dark real place from prison and having a death sentence above his head, and he found sort of the light within the
Yeah.
occult, which is sort of sort of was demonized. And I think that's what a lot of people's experience have been who've been in the occult, that they've found the religion of their upbringing, wanting or not having the Christian love that was, supposed to be delivered to them.
Yeah.
And they find a new way, a new kind of freedom by reinventing. It's like the difference between religion and spirituality,
Yeah.
and if that makes any sense. But I
Hmm.
a lot of times I would read like philosophy, like Kierkegaard or Sartre or something, and not necessarily understand everything at the time, but I felt it was a home for me. Because so
Hmm.
sometimes even if I'm listening to a podcast or something that I might not always completely understand, I get a sense that there's a wisdom here that I could gain something from,
Hmm.
even though I might not be able to recount it later. But it also makes you want to go back and go like, because there's something rich about these things. Does that make any sense?
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. I mean,
All right. So when does school start again?
September 14th, I think.
Okay. And are you working these days or no?
No.
Okay. What was your last job?
I got hired to do like a score for my friend's thesis film.
How long was the film?
It was about, I think, like 3 or 4 minutes.
So you got money for it? It was
Yeah,
professional? Oh, cool.
yeah,
Was he happy with it?
yeah. He was. Yeah, we very much enjoyed working together.
Did you work together, or did you make it and he was like, "Oh, that's perfect," or did he?
Yeah,
Was it
um,
collaborative?
Yeah, I would send him like renditions of it or instances of it, and he would give me feedback, and I'd be like, yeah, like just every step of the way, I'd be like, hey, is this what you're looking for? Because it was pretty like complex. He was very specific with what he wanted, so I just was making sure that it was the vibe that he was looking for.
What kind of film was it? What?
It it was an animation, and it was actually this story. It was about two dogs that were like a older brother and a little brother, and the little brother was super fucking annoying and kind of had caused the older brother to like have this like mental breakdown where he goes into this like dream sequence where he just is like, trying to maintain his sanity without killing his little brother. Then he wakes up and he's like, okay, this is, just realizes that it's like, oh, this kid is he's just a kid, so he
Right.
doesn't know any better. And then
Was
the
it
film,
is it a dark comedy, or is it sort of like kind of like a creepy life lesson?
I don't know, it's very playful and kind of, I
Serious and
was
playful at the same time?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say it's like just childlike, except like for kids, that kind of story. Except there's like some kind of crude stuff that he chose to put in it that I'm like, if you didn't put that in, like he put like he shows the dog's testicles, and I'm like, I don't know if that's
Right.
yeah,
You're gonna lose a certain audience or whatever. Or
yeah,
that
yeah.
yeah. But what instrumentation did you use for the soundtrack?
So I used he wanted metal. He wanted a
Okay.
metal part of the sequence, and I used a lot of synthesizers and VST instruments, like just like a charango, like a MIDI charango. Which is, do you know what charango is?
Mm-mm, I'm just shaking my head.
Yeah, it's it is like a good type of guitar that's used in a lot of film scores. It's kind of like this. It's like this. It has this ukulele type sound, but it's more full. And I use that and just a lot of like atmospheric things. Lots of pads. Um,
Did you
and I
go to
actually
school?
did.
Well,
Oh yeah, actually, I also did a samba sequence, which
cool.
was fun. That was a first for me.
Did you know him through school?
Yeah, yeah, we're actually pretty good friends, so it
Okay,
worked out that way as well.
cool. So, do you have like favorite soundtracks for films or favorite? I mean, who's that Zinter guy? Isn't there a guy named Zinter?
Hans Zimmer.
Zimmer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No worries. I mean, yeah, his writing style is really just it's he kind of perfects the concept of film scoring, and that's why he's so kind of popular. Like he just like, I guess, Pirates of the Caribbean, that um, that main theme. Just the melodies are so powerful and strong, and but I like whoever did the 2005 version of War of the Worlds. I really dug that music. Um,
I'll have to Google that.
yeah, or
2000.
with Tom
What about
Cruise.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah, what about That's a Spielberg one, right?
yeah. I thought
Um, 2005. What do you think of uh, Nine Inch Nails guy
Trent Reznor. Yeah,
and him doing soundtracks? How do you like? Doesn't he work with this other guy?
with Hans
Um,
Zimmer or
no, I'm looking up the War of the Worlds, but he did like the soundtrack of Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
oh yeah, I never
Um,
watched that.
Me either. There's a friend of mine who listens to a lot of like soundtracks. What do we
Mm-hmm.
got? Music by John Williams.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's who did War of the Worlds,
Oh, cool,
2005. He did,
cool.
so he's from so 11 years old was when things started to hit you. For me it was like 13, I think I saw
Hmm.
Cuckoo's Nest in 1975.
Yeah.
But what else? Who all right. Did Trent Reznor make any impression on you while you were growing up?
I mean, yeah, like my best friend was really into Nine Inch Nails. I listened to that. You know, "Hurt" is a really good song. It's very popular. And then what's the one where it's like "Bow down before the one you serve"? You're gonna get the what you deserve. Like that song. I don't know the title, but those are pretty awesome lyrics.
Isn't that the one where something I won't give up control to
Hmm.
whatever? It's just like in Texas Chainsaw, it's just an old man talking. It's really hot, and I'm out of my depth as far as knowing Nine Inch Nails. It's like,
Hmm.
you know, it's like culture was like super important to me. Songs, or even my own songs are my best friends. Sometimes it's like I'll go back and I'll understand where I was at that point, and also be able to listen to it in a different way. Sort of like that's been like my picture book through my life. And films used to, when I was 13, they'd go deep, and something would affect you, and then you gradually you get your guard up, and you're not as vulnerable. And but then the cost is that you don't. But then real life comes in, and then real life is becomes primary. But I miss having like a film like be like the best thing ever, and like having
Yeah.
those moments. And I think just like the the drug addict where the drugs don't work anymore, it's like I miss having the like I think I felt safest and most excited in a movie theater in the dark, and like being transported
Yeah.
someplace. And I don't know if I can. And now it's a matter of like, meditating and like and realizing that the world's, might just be an illusion, and that's okay. And that's
Yeah.
okay, and being okay with that. Or like
Yeah.
meditating, or like, and surrendering, and kind of going like, and making friends with the void, like, and
Yeah.
just, and going like, maybe it's okay. It's like, because I think for a while I needed, a higher power that was unconditional love, because I had so much fear and I had so many resentments that the only
Hmm.
thing the only thing I could surrender to was that idea of unconditional love. And that, okay, if I'm gonna give up my way, which isn't working, I feel like I'm gonna die, and I'm like, if I can just think of unconditional love, then I will, in that, if I'm gonna go to the lions, I want love in my heart. If I'm gonna go into the slaughterhouse, I want love in my heart. That's the
Hmm.
last thing I want to be feeling, because my hostilities are, and my are boomeranging back at me, and it's like,
Hmm.
it's not safe inside myself, and it's not safe outside. And I'm like, okay, so I needed to kind of like go there. And I think I was very angry at a God that I claimed not to believe in, but I was just angry at reality. I was just
Hmm.
having a tantrum at age 50 or whatever. And I was like, all right, if I keep this up, I'm going to lose everything that's good in my life. I'm like, okay, I have to stop. And I have to go like, all right, I have to get some gratitude. I have to get some sanity, and kind of go like, okay, this is the life that I have, like, and not blow it up. And
Yeah.
like, and now I'm kind of like, but I was like, even when I'm okay with like not believing that there's a God. Or, I mean, I know there's something that created us, but I don't know if it has any. I don't know if it has a moral compass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but I'm okay with the void too. I mean, I think. Um, I mean, do you go there at all? What I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You go to those places, because it's like that's like my psychedelic trip. It's
Hmm.
like, because I think
Yeah, it is pretty psychedelic what you're, talking about. So, I mean, I think.
and I think that's why I relate to those guys, like having those like because I think like that the steps in AA are equivalent to the shaman
Mhm.
experience in ayahuasca, even though it's like the ayahuasca people who do ayahuasca, usually give up their careers to become shaman, and that just sounds like drug addiction to me. They become more into ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I want to do it more. Like I want to like get away from that bondage, and be
Yeah.
present in the world and be able to
Well, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what can happen if you do too much psychedelics is like people just get disconnected from society because they see like, oh yeah, this is, I mean, society is fucked up in a lot of ways. And I think,
Right.
and people just see that so vividly that they just can't handle it anymore. They just want to be like one with, Mother Earth. And I can totally understand that. But at the same time, it's like, we're born into this system and we kind of got to hack it, like
Yeah.
that's like my worldview is like, I didn't choose to be born into this system, but it's what the deal is. So I kind of have to learn to live with it.
Yeah, I totally relate. I think um yeah, and I've expressed that a lot in the songs that I write about like,
Mm-hmm.
I I don't want to be here. This wasn't my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is pain, and then at a certain point the the just expressing that didn't work until I had to say, all right, a lot of it was like, look, I was pissed at the creator or God or whatever because he or she or it wasn't living up to certain principles. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, and then I realized I was angry at a God that I claimed I didn't believe. And then I said, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Why am I angry at a God that I claimed I didn't believe in? And then I was like, what are these principles that I'm putting to this creator? It's like, well, why don't I adopt them? Why don't I act on these principles rather than, you know what I'm saying? Why don't I adopt them, like,
Mm-hmm.
kindness and peace and all that stuff, and love, and just as like a tool, and like act by the principles that I'm pissed that a God I don't believe in is not acting on. You know what I'm? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I said,
Gotcha.
why don't I just be that be that person with those principles and go through, this wacky world that way.
Yeah.
And that was that was the thing where I was like, I realized I'm pissed at a God that I don't believe in. Okay, that I'm pissed at something of just reality, of just life as it is. And then I was just like, why don't I adopt those principles? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like
mean, it's
it's a
good
lot.
to
What?
it's good to like relieve yourself of just existential anger. I think that's definitely a step in a healthier direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know.
I always thought the arts was a safe place to do it. It was like the arts was. My friend Jeff was like, it civilizes us. The arts
Mm-hmm.
in their way. And I think, I really like comedians too, because they tend to tell the truths, and laughter is such a natural spiritual decision, that's almost instinctive, that the
Yeah.
chaos magicians say there's no opposite, there's not an opposite emotion or whatever to laughter. They think that's singular. They don't think that crying is the opposite of laughter. I don't know.
Interesting.
I found the Liber Null Chaos Magic book by Peter J. Carroll to be really
Yeah.
inspiring, but only like the first, like, just sections of it, because some of it makes a lot of sense, and then some of it's just completely nuts. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take the stuff that makes sense and then leave the stuff that's nuts,
Yeah.
which is kind of like what they say anyway. They kind of say like,
Yeah.
look, um, look at results and like choose whatever way to hack the system that works for you at the moment. But yeah,
Yeah.
but the whole idea of like the isolation is not good for me, and I have to participate. I have to
Mm-hmm.
both be in the world, but then, and like when I'm, and like the difference between isolation and solitude. Like isolation is I'm sort of afraid of the world, and then solitude is like I think I'm okay. I'm okay
Yeah.
with the world, but I mean, it might, it's like I still like sometimes it really surprises me, like when I'm at work, which I like hate, and I'm doing it, and I'm like, this is really good for me. I feel my system kind of go like, okay, this is something I don't want, but it's good for me. Just like I guess people say exercise, but I haven't quite.
Yeah.
And it also, it's like a lot of times at work or commuting to work, like I'll come up with, like I'll be pissed about something, or something at work will have bothered me, and then I'll be able to write some verse about it and have or like write a song on the train. So it's
Mhm.
having that push pull of like having some work and then having some free time to do stuff is a good balance, because a lot of times when I've had a lot of free time, I just lose my rudder, and I don't, and nothing
Yeah.
that I come up with feels any good, because there's no pushback.
Right.
And I realize that it's good to have that pushback. It's good to be doing things, I don't quote unquote want to do.
Excuse me. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
I think that's what maybe like it's not necessarily structure. It's just more a matter of like, kind of doing grown up shit, like working and brushing my teeth and
Yeah.
taking a shower and cleaning my room, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. You can see that I'm not
It's not
necessarily
so
there.
bad. Mine's worse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I've been working out a lot, doing these intense like class programs where you for 45 minutes, it's like 30 people and a trainer, and the trainer just kicks your ass for 45 minutes. And it's like, yeah, like just when you said, it's good for you, but you fucking hate it. Like every second, like when I'm there, like I hate every second of it, but I know it's good for me. Like I'm just like, fuck, like seriously, my body, I can just feel my body just like resisting every single second of it. And like, but like I'm reaping the benefits, like I don't get out of breath like very easily anymore. My muscles are a lot stronger. So, it's just one of those things where it's like you gotta bite the bullet. You gotta earn it.
Yeah. A lot of times when I was like really depressed, like, and like over medicated, I would exercise and it wouldn't like, I'm just like the pain of depression was actually more debilitating than like exercise when I'm healthy, like gives me the adrenaline rush, and like my body wakes up to it,
Mm-hmm.
and like feels more alive and more present in the world. But like when I was really depressed, or like depression sometimes was more painful and debilitating, and like that was sometimes hard for people to understand. Like if I couldn't walk very well, even if I wasn't like overly medicated, sometimes I'd be so depressed it'd be hard to walk, and it'd be like more debilitating in like the pain of, and it's not like the pain of exercise, where it's like your body like rises to the challenge and kind of like it gives you that adrenaline, or
Yeah.
gives you that energy. And but that was really painful, like when I was depressed. But that's no
Oh
excuse for
yeah.
me. That's no excuse for me not to exercise.
Well, I mean, I've had a really bad depressive episode before, and I can say that like it's just it's one of those things where it was so bad that I just couldn't even leave my bed.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot that you can expect from yourself when you're like that. I mean, like literally, like if you take care of your basic hygiene, like that's pretty revolutionary. And if you're like dealing with like this just complete like lack of serotonin, like
Yeah.
if your brain just completely lacks that chemical, it's.
And I don't think anybody can really get it unless they've lived if they experienced it, you
Yeah.
know. And so there's a bit of that. It can get lonely if the people around you don't get it. But
Yeah.
uh but it does. I haven't been depressed in a long time, and I really did the AA steps for my depression because I was 7 years without drinking, but I was like, I still had the mental and the spiritual malady. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
threefold disease, so it's a motherfucker. But I mean, I was like, look, if this could do miracles for people who are out of control with substances, maybe it can do something with me. And it certainly runs in my family. So I really put my depression, which is just, as I said, my being pissed off at the creator in reality. It's helped me calm that storm and kind of just be okay with reality and like just stop the fight. I really,
Mm-hmm.
but I was holding on to it because I thought it was part of why I was an artist, or that I would,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was I thought it, and that was more important to me, like making stuff than actually feeling good. But
Yeah, that's part of one of the back to Duncan Trussell, one of part of the podcast in the Midnight Gospel, where they say, like, they talk about the fear that if you become healthy, you won't be as good of a artist, and that's like definitely one of the. It's just it's an illusion,
yeah,
it's not real at all. You think that, like, I think that's like, yeah, like I kind of think a lot about, like, oh, like just the parts of me that are dysfunctional and like just not working on something when I really need to be working on it. There's this part of me, like part of me that's like, oh well, if I become productive to the caliber that I want to be, I won't have like this, like, things have worked out for my favor, just me being the way I am. But if I get to a point where I'm like a lot more responsible and productive, it's going to be a different reality for me. And it's scary because it's like, just what you don't know, the hell you know versus the hell you don't know.
yeah, definitely. Well, I think a lot of people will stay in the hell they know
Mm-hmm.
rather than be in uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the tragic kind of thing of it, especially if you're grown up with some chaos. You actually feel more comfortable in the chaos, and that peace is an unsettling experience because you never know when something's going to drop. But I mean, meditations help me, be at peace with peace.
Yeah.
And I just have to remember that, when I was really depressed, I couldn't like make anything, and I was like, I would see things that were inspiring to me, like films and stuff, and I was like, I made a promise to myself, if I ever get healthier, that I can actually make a film. This is the kind of film I wanted to make. And then I did get healthier, after a crash, and then I was getting myself back together. And I said, look, I need to make films like I did as a kid. I don't care if I'm, 30 or 5 or whatever. And I made these films that really meant something to me. And that was fulfilling the promise that I made when I was in a really kind of fetal, depressive state.
Mm-hmm.
And I made those films, and I didn't, I just made them because of I loved to do them, and that was the stories or whatever I wanted to make, and I just loved doing it. And then like those, then I was like sitting around in some restaurant or whatever in New York, and I saw these flyers for the New York Underground Film Festival, and the submission date had not passed, and so I was like, oh, there's time, so I submitted it, and it got in, and then like seeing it in front of an audience was like amazing, but it
Yeah.
was like, and those are kind of some of my strongest films but I made them because I really, it was like, it was like a declaration that I'm here and this is my experience. And I didn't even think anybody else was going to see them. And it was,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like, I cherished that time because it was just me and like cinema or whatever you want to call it. It was me and the art. It was like, it was just me and the gods of an art form that's, kind of was my higher power when I was a kid, when things were really fucked up. I didn't pick up the bottle or any drugs, but I was like, saw amazing films and had amazing, and I said, I want to be part of this, and I wanted, even if I'm shitty at it, I want to do this. And I think that kept me away from uh alcohol before. It crept up on me later, but whatever. I mean, but I had a solution, and whatever. But Do I have to like sign up for Netflix to watch the Duncan Trussell thing?
Yeah, probably.
I don't want to spend any money. I'm an old man. I'm a miser. Um, but I'm gonna look up his name on YouTube and see if I can
Yeah.
watch some stuff for free, because I
Yeah,
really
oh,
liked.
you definitely can. There's
Yeah,
a lot of it, is based around the use of psychedelics. So I don't know if
which
that's
I'm like
gonna.
kind of against, but
Right, right,
I understand it, but I've done it soberly, and I'm just like,
right.
so I'm like, I've had a spiritual experience by doing like the steps and whatever
Yeah,
and meditating, and I'm like, I think you can. I remember having this conversation with my friend, and he wanted to do ayahuasca, and I was like, that's the last thing this guy needs. It's like, Jesus, he's not struggling, but he's already an enthusiast in other things. And I was like, he was like, in ayahuasca, you get a shaman. I said, well, in the steps, you get a sponsor. And he said, ayahuasca, you talk to entities. And I said, in the steps, you get a higher power. And he said, in ayahuasca, you meet your bullshit. And I said, yeah, in the steps, you confront your defects, and you and then
yeah,
I said, by the end of the steps, you're resolved inside, and you can be of service to other people, and
yeah,
you're not codependent. And it seemed to me that if you did ayahuasca, you just sort of become deeper in the ayahuasca reality, and farther away from consensus reality, where you might have to do something you don't want to do to pay your friggin' rent.
right. Yeah, there's this kind of like escapism that comes with psychedelics, I think. Like, I mean, in my experiences with it, like, you think, during the trip, you're just like, oh yeah, like, I see everything and so clearly. It kind of like just it expands your consciousness to a certain point. And I've noticed that I don't necessarily like, I don't gain any experience points from it. Like,
That you can use in the practical
yeah.
consensus reality world.
I
Yeah.
mean, but there's also studies that say like um, psychedelics tend to like it depends on your intentions with them. Like if you just want to trip, like yeah, you're just gonna trip. But if you take them with the intention of like stopping smoking or like just quitting alcohol or whatever ails you, like you can really zero in on that. You
Yeah.
know,
I
um,
think that's probably true. I mean, it was actually the guy
I
who
think
started AA, like, actually found LSD to be the spiritual experience that
yeah,
they were getting through doing the steps. And but he was he probably had trouble, and that's controversial. But I mean, it's a
yeah,
matter of much of the steps is about having a spiritual awakening that frees
yeah,
you from having to use like substances to get there, and
yeah,
usually it creeps up on you, and then suddenly it's taken over your life, and that's why people get
yeah.
help. I mean, and you never know when it's, I don't know. So it's like, but you were gonna say, I would
Oh yeah, no, I'm
interrupt.
just just kind of going off of what you just said. Like, um, psychedelics are very powerful. So like, it's not for everyone. You can have really damaging experiences on it. Um, but yeah, like, and also I think in a way, like, it's just a shortcut to what you can achieve through like, yeah, like what you're talking about in meditation and
Yeah,
the
but I
12
was
step
always,
program.
yeah, I was always, but even like before I did the 12 steps, I was like paranoid of groups and stuff, and my own susceptibility to being a part of a group, and so that's why I made the mind control movie, because I was like, like, not every spiritual group is benevolent, and sometimes
Hmm.
they'll look sweet on the outside and then be sort of sinister at the core. So it's like, if you surrender, you got to make sure you're safe or whatever. I'm in my room, the door's shut, and I'm like, so it's like a matter of like, try to like surrender but not be a doormat, surrender but still be in charge of the
Hmm.
ship, but be able to like so it's no easy answer. It's like, that's why everybody has to go within their own comfort level, and that's why in the program it's suggestions, and there's no crosstalk during meetings, and it's like, and I've been aware of this program for like since I was a kid, like, and I was like, it's just seemed kind of creepy, at first, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, but when all else failed, I was like, why don't I try this, and it was the right time, and I kind of pretend that, oh well, I should have done this, 20 years ago, but I was like, it happened at the right time, meaning that I don't regret like what I went through, and maybe I was okay at that time, because yeah, it's like you tend to want to go back and like correct things as if life is like something mental rather than something you experience, or like a checklist or whatever that people would have to remind it, figure it out is not one of the steps. I mean, and that's why I was always interested in philosophy. I thought, I just want to figure this out. Do I really have to live life? Can I just can I just solve the equation and get the fuck out of here?
Yeah.
But I have to actually experience it. And I think, that's the best way you learn. But I did, hide from life for the longest time. So be it, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are gonna, I guess, find their answers or whatever. I don't know. So Sam, have you ever had your heart broken?
No, not really. I mean, yeah.
So, I was afraid to ask that because I was like, oh. Then the other thing was, how did you get over it? You never had your heart broken?
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's kind of beautiful.
yeah.
I had my heart broken several times, but I got over it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's I don't know. I'm surprised, but pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. All right, what are my other do you have a lot of friends or just a few close friends?
I have a lot of
Or
friends, I
both?
would say. Yeah. It's just kind of to varying degrees. I mean, I have like, yeah, a lot of close friends, some closer than others. I would say like, especially being like, I guess younger, it's kind of that way where you're just like, everyone's still, I mean, it's getting to be not that way anymore, but like, everyone's kind of condensed into the same space. And so we're just kind of interacting. Um, and I think, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but yeah, right now I feel
How are you
pretty good.
Yeah, how are you connecting with your friends? I mean, during COVID and stuff, is it
Oh
Zoom or
yeah.
is it through what medium?
Well, actually, I mean, recently, so what actually connected me, it was one of our friends passed away, and so there was like a service for that, and I just ran into like so many people that,
Wow. When was
so it's
that? How long ago?
like a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty fresh on my mind. Just it was really great to see them, and celebrate his life.
How did he die, if I may ask?
Like a heart attack or something.
Wow, how old was he?
33.
Wow. I think that's how I'm gonna go unless I exercise.
Who knows?
Wow. Okay. All right. So, are you cool with me posting this?
Yeah, sure.
And then send me any links you want that I can put in the description.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I usually let these go for no more than an hour and a half,
Okay, sure.
which we've hit that moment. You got anything else to say?
Um, I don't know. Just
Stay
obligatory.
What?
Yeah, maybe just an
Stay in
obligatory like,
school?
yeah, stay in school, or just check out the links I send to Carrie that he posts.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's
All
been a
right,
pleasure.
cool. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it really was.
So let's do it again. And I best to all the fam and everybody. And
Of course, yeah. My
keep
mom
me,
says hi.
say hi to your mom and your dad and
Yeah,
everybody. And that'll be it. And keep me updated if anything cool happens.
for sure. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right, take
I'll
care.
see ya.
See
You
ya.
too.